Blog Talk Radio.
The funeral is about to begin, sir.
The calling hours.
When there's no more room in hell, the dead will walk here.
They will say that I have shed innocent blood. What's blood for, if not for shedding? Kill all thy death, lose all thy love.
Welcome to another episode of the Calling Hours Horror Podcast on Horror Society Radio. This is your host, the Dead Man, Michael Jones, saying hello to everyone once again. We're going to have a really, really great episode this evening, ladies and gentlemen. This evening, we, in our indie spotlight here, in a couple of moments, we are going to have horror hostess Miss Misery, Renya Young, and one of her fellow filmmakers, Mo Whalen, coming up to speak about their latest project. At 8:30, we're going to have Felissa Rose of Sleepaway Camp fame coming on to talk to us for a little bit over an hour. We are going to be reviewing Scream Factory's Blu-ray DVD release of Slumber Party Massacre, which I think most people, my age, maybe a little bit younger, will remember. That's definitely a throwback to our time. Films were made very differently then. And in our Metal Blade Spotlight tonight, we're going to have Destrage. So we have some interesting things going on this evening. It looks like we may already have one of our first guests on. This is the Dead Man. Is this Miss Misery?
No, this is actually Mo Whelan. I know she
Mo.
should be coming in soon. Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, thank you. I know she should be coming in soon.
Okay. Well, since I've got you on here first, let's go ahead and introduce you so people know more about you. You're a former automotive gearhead turned actress,
Correct.
Animation geek, artist, consultant, filmmaker, non-nude alternative model, and a writer.
Yeah.
Kind of tell us for a minute how you got your start. I mean, starting off in automotive to going to actress.
Well, I started working at a company that's called Chief Auto Parts, which is now AutoZone. When I was 17. I was still a teenager. And when I first moved to LA, I just transferred at 19, and I started working in game development as an intern, and then I went on to post-production and also worked on South Park Bigger, Longer, and Uncut.
Very
in
nice.
the evening time, yeah. And so from there, I really just worked on the back end of post-production for several years and did some visual effects and ran a computer training center for visual effects and animation in my mid-20s. And I just kind of fell into horror because a friend asked me to help produce one of his films a few years ago, which was Client 14. And that same director, which is Patrick O'Bell, I helped him last year on his film, The Divine Order, which Dave Vescio also stars in. And
very nice.
I have a couple of short films. One went to Action Film Festivals and also to Reina's Film Festival, which is A Sin That Cannot Be Forgiven. And that's when she and I decided to start working together on our own feature film, which is No Service, that stars Felissa.
Right. Now, what do you think about what Miss Misery has done? If you look at everything she's doing with, Last Doorway Productions and her film festival and everything else, how do you feel about how she's progressed through the years, and, how excited are you to be working with her on this new project?
Oh, I'm really excited. She's a really smart cookie. She's younger than I am, so I respect that. She's very driven, and she knows what she's doing. She's aware of legal concerns. She's also aware of. She's a very creative person, and she's good at finding talent. And she's also a good writer. So I'm really excited. She makes good relationships. She's very good at networking. She gets herself out there, and she just does it. She just pulls, she just grabs a rope and gets bull by the horns and keeps going. And which is kind of how I'm driven too. It's part of being in the entertainment industry. You just kind of have to throw yourself into the mix and see if you sink or swim. That makes sense.
Now, with everything that you've done, you've worked at various production and post-production studios in Los Angeles. You've done, graphic arts, technical software stuff, DVD, VOD, account manager, post-supervision producer. Out of all the hats that you wear and the things that you do, which of them do you find to be the most challenging, and which one do you find to be the most rewarding?
That's an interesting question. The most challenging, generally, I've noticed, is financial producing. So different people get confused. A producer can be creative. It can be finding investors. Today's economy has made it a little difficult to create an independent film. A lot of investors are a little shy away from a film due to RI. They want to make sure they get their investment back. So that's been one of the toughest, areas so far. For most rewarding, I do like to create teams and see a final outfit. So I do like with producing. For myself, I am rewarded when, I'm thankful to have very supportive actors attached to the projects I'm involved with, and they're really thankful. And when it comes out right and they get the press they deserve, that's what's more rewarding for me. And also, when I do a lot of advising, usually for schools or governments for production, to see students move on and accomplish their dreams in their career. It's just that's rewarding to give back, the gift, the thankfulness.
Right. Now you're also a freelance writer, and you've written a few articles for the comedy horror magazine Girls and Corpses.
Correct.
Kind of tell us a little bit about Girls and Corpses. It's not a magazine that's readily available out here where I'm at. So kind of tell people what you write about in the magazine and what the magazine is all about.
Robert Ryan's great. He also had he did Sick and Twisted years ago, so he has an animation background too, and he's also been in production for years as a publicist. And Kevin Clem, he does he originally did the Corpses. He's an amazing artist for that. It's a mix. It has horror genre. It has just anything that might be kind of weird to the standard consumer, I guess you'd say, that some people don't want to touch or talk about. So, there's artists that draw blood that he's displayed before. So, normal things like that. But I got involved years ago because Robert Ryan came across in my blogging, and I'm more of a gonzo writer. So he's like my writing style. And that's usually when people pick me up to write an article, it's because I'm more gonzo-ish. And my articles, I've done reviews for Dahmer versus Gacy, a Fort Austin film, another film that Victoria DeMar was in. I did a dark poem that's in one of the issues. And sorry, I'm actually blanking on the name right now. I forgot what I called it.
It happens to the best of us.
Exactly. Once you start writing, it's kind of good. I just write and let it go. And I reviewed this 3D porn site for my first film, which was kind of funny. I mean, my first article that wrote for him. That was years ago. Your thing's coming on.
It looks like Miss Misery is joining us. Let me get her on. This is the Dead Man. Is this Miss Misery?
There you are. Yeah,
How are you?
Hi. I'm good.
And it looks like did you have someone else calling as well?
Oh, it's just Mo Whelan.
Yes,
I've had the third caller calling in.
Oh, interesting.
Maybe one of your people have called in a surprise. This is the Dead Man on Horror Society Radio. Who am I speaking with?
Are you speaking to me?
I could be. Is this Felissa?
No, this is her mother.
Oh, cute.
I just happened to see this, and I said, I'm going to call in to speak with my daughter. I can't believe it.
We have Miss Misery's mom on Horror Society Radio with us. This is
Hi
excellent.
there. Nice to meet you. This is Joan Esposito, Felissa Rose's mom, calling from New York.
Oh, she's going to be on at. She's going to be on at 8:30.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, you guys enjoy, and I'll call back later.
Okay, we will.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. That was pretty cool, actually.
I was like, oh, my God. I was like, someone's trying to claim to be my mom now? Oh, my God.
This has been a long time coming, Miss Misery. You and I have known each other for a couple of years now on Facebook. And we have been dancing around trying to get each other's schedules right to have you on. And I was talking with Mo a few minutes ago about all the stuff that you do. You're the queen of horror in the Bay Area, director, producer, writer, model, actress, horror host, film festival director. All of those things, you know, I remember basically when you got started to where you are now. You know, what got you into horror and what got you and Mo together to get this film going, this project?
Well, what got me into horror was John Carpenter's Halloween. I snuck into my dad's VHS collection when I was really young. I must have been like 7 or 8, and I knew I wasn't allowed to watch it because every Halloween he would turn the TV off when it started on TV. And he had it, though, on VHS. I knew that. And I watched it. I loved it. It scared me, but at the same time, I was so intrigued by it that that's how everything started. Then it was Edgar Allan Poe and Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and it was just a snowball effect, basically. And it wasn't until about 6.5, 7 years ago I finally was like I put my foot down. I was like, I'm going to do it. If there's anything I want to do before I die, because you only live once, I'm going to do it all. So I've been doing it ever since, about 6.5 years now.
Now, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was going to say, and then I met Mo. I met Mo Whelan when I did my women in horror documentary about 3.5 years ago.
Mm-hmm. God, it's been that long.
And we've been friends ever since and talking about doing stuff together, and we're finally going to do it.
Now, tell us a little bit about how No Service actually came to be.
Oh, well, I was in L.A. for 3 weeks working on a Felissa Rose project, actually, called No Solicitors. And what happened was Mo and I kept talking about we should do a movie together. We should do a movie together. No, yeah, we should write one. Yeah, what should we do? I don't know. And then we kept going back and forth with ideas. And we were watching a movie one night, too. It was
what were we watching?
Truth or Dare. We were watching Truth or Dare.
It was no, not Dare. It's the other one that sounds the same title.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah, it's not the Jessica Cameron one. It's another one that we were watching.
You're talking about the Tim Ritter one?
No, not the Tim Ritter. It was
British. There's been so many movies called Truth or Dare, so.
Yeah, I think they ended up changing the title to Truth or Die. Also.
Truth or Die.
Was it Truth or Die? Yeah, or it was originally called Truth or Die. But we were watching that, and we were like, yeah, that was awesome. Let's do it. Let's do a movie together. So I started writing a script. We were just bouncing ideas, and all of a sudden she's like talking, and I wasn't listening because I was just writing away.
Now, how did you guys manage to get Felissa involved with the project?
I've known Felissa for a while. I met her at a convention way back and interviewed her for my show, The Last Doorway Show, which was my first TV show that I did. It was a 30-minute on celebrity interviews at conventions, and that's how I met her. And she even said on camera, we're going to work together someday, and we are going to do it. I emailed her. I'm like, come on, honey. You know you want to work with me. And she's like, hell yeah.
It's time to do it.
Oh, yeah. So I'm really happy to be working with her. Mo and I put together basically our dream cast with all these great actresses and up-and-coming actresses and actors, and I think we've got a great cast. I think we're gonna kick some ass.
Yeah. Are you guys looking for theatrical distribution? Are you looking for direct-to-DVD release? What are you guys hoping to achieve?
Well, personally, because I worked in digital media before, and I know more of the outlets on the digital media side. More like we're going to do the standard, go around the film festival route first, and the reality is digital streaming is actually the main future, and most agreements include that in it. So most of the distribution agreements that I know of generally cover DVD with the digital rights. And I have people who can already view the film for us. And regarding theatrical, that would depend on where it's being territory-wise. And, we're planning on doing a local screening that was supposed to be for cast and crew, but we might open it up to a premiere screening at Supper Club LA, which my friend FD owns. So we're considering that as just a local LA screening. So theatrically, it's open theatrically wise, but right now, due to technology, going towards more digital rights along with DVD on the back end.
Yeah, what she said.
Now, with February being Women in Horror Month, okay, how do you guys feel about how women's roles in films have changed, and do you believe the fight is as hard as it was years ago, or do you finally feel that women are getting their just due in the genre? In all aspects, not just as actresses, but directors, producers, the whole nine.
I have an overall question, I think.
Go ahead, Mo.
Yeah, I think it's an overall question, more not just in general not just a horror genre, but it's also just in general within the actual industry itself. I remember years ago I think I was 20 working at Crest National, and there was a high-end producer that was female, and she said to me she was ready to get out of the industry because she kept hitting the glass ceiling. And personally, being in the industry for as many years as I have, I find myself constantly running into the glass ceiling. Sometimes I get through. Horror, though, is good about publicizing females, I noticed, compared to other genres.
Yeah, with me, it's a hot and cold question, you know? I mean, I support women, obviously. I am one.
That always helps. That always helps.
Yeah, exactly. I back in, Halloween, John Carpenter had Jamie Lee Curtis as the survivor, the one who kicked ass back, and there are female role models that do that, and that's always been around. I believe a lot of women out there come together to try to, strive more to stick together and make it all, female power. We get treated like crap by men, and I understand that. I see that because, to be honest, I recently did a film where the guys were being favored over me, and I was actually really surprised and shocking that that's actually still happening. But I can see, the point of view where a lot of feminists and even non-feminists who just, support it come from. And at the other end, a lot of people ask me, how do you feel, being a female director? Like, honestly, I just feel like I'm just a director. I hate stereotypes like that. I hate to just say, yeah, I'm a female director. I feel I'm just a director. That's just where I come from, But I support Women in Horror Month. I support what they're all about. Gung-ho, let's go. Ladies, yeah. And at the same time, it's like, I'm just doing my thing. Trying to survive and doing my thing.
Well, I mean, I certainly agree with both of you. I don't feel like, I mean, I definitely support women in horror. Don't get me wrong. When I had Rebecca Herzberg and everyone on the last couple of weeks, one of the things that I brought up was until the industry as a whole gets past the male-female thing, this is always going to be a topic of discussion. It should just be us in horror, not men in horror, women in horror, so on and so forth.
Yeah.
But like I said, I certainly support everything that Women in Horror Month represents. Now, with the film No Service, what are you guys looking to bring to what are you bringing in this film that's going to be stand out? That sets it apart from the typical horror film.
Well, yeah. We see Mo and I are sick in the head when it comes to horror. we kind of think alike a little bit. I think what we're really good at. Wait, go ahead, Mom. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, like, when we were writing it, and I would send it, I'm like, girl, I can't believe I just wrote this. What do you think?
Oh, yeah, and after she wrote the disgusting stuff she wrote, I was like, I love it.
Well, that's just kind of how we are, those people. I mean, come on now.
I mean, what Mo and I really want to, achieve in killing our ex-boyfriends is really going to come out in the film, I think. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, by the way,
you seem to have that running theme, Miss Misery. I've known this attitude's been with you as long as I've known you. This killing boyfriends thing, or ex-boyfriend.
Well, it's a hobby. You got to have a hobby.
As long as you don't get
that's
caught.
True.
That's the thing.
Yeah, they don't search as hard when it's a boyfriend or a girlfriend as opposed to an ex-spouse. You're right. I know about that end of it, but. Well, look, if people want more information for your film, where do they go? Do you guys have a Kickstarter up? Is there an official web page? Tell people where to go to get the info on your film.
We do have an Indiegogo campaign up. We're trying to raise some funds for the film right now. Mo and I, my producer of my TV show, Ken Constantine, and John Gillette are also producing this film. We're asking for anything that we can. Actually, I know Indiegogo and Kickstarter kind of have been kicked down due to a lot of people do feel like they can't contribute because is it really going to a film? Well, yeah, we're making a movie here, and we're asking for just a little help. So we do have an Indiegogo campaign out. You can go to laststoryproductions.com, check that out with the link, or you can go to Mo Whelan or Randy Young's or Miss Misery's Facebooks also, because we have links up letting you know. We've got videos up explaining about the film and what we're going to do with the money and all the amazing cast that we have.
And I also tweet a lot. So if you just go to my Twitter handle, which is Mo Dragonfly, it's one word, Mo Dragonfly, you can check out my tweets.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, is there anything else you want to tell your fans and the listeners before I let you guys go?
We appreciate you and support. We appreciate all of our fans, our support. It's an honor and privilege for us to have such a great response so far with the media, too. So we appreciate Horror Society and all you guys there and everyone else that's, gotten the word out about the film and who's involved and such.
Yeah, and I'd like to just thank my friends, my family, and my amazing fans who have just been with me for so long, and they love me, of course, because I'm perfect. No, I'm just kidding. And
I love her.
No, I just wanted to let all my fans out there know I'll see you in your nightmares.
Very nice. Ladies, thank you for coming on. I look forward to having you on the show again. If you ever have any news updates about the project, please shoot it over to me, and I'll make sure it gets up on Horror Society.
Great. We'll be stalking you. Thank you.
Anytime.
Bye.
And once again, in our indie spotlight, that was Mo Whelan and Miss Misery talking about their upcoming project, No Service. In about 5 minutes, we are going to be joined by Miss Felissa Rose to talk about her career, and we are going to talk a bit about Sleepaway Camp because I feel there are deeper things in that film, and it's definitely a cult film that many of us loved. But before we get to that, we're going to have our first song in our Metal Blade Spotlight for the evening. Tonight's band is Destrage. The name of the CD is Are You Kidding Me? And the song is My Green Neighbor. Welcome back to the Calling Hours Horror Podcast on Horror Society Radio. This is your host, the Dead Man, Michael Jones. You just heard Destrage. Are You Kidding Me? No is the title of the album, and the song was My Green Neighbor. We are going to transition into our feature interview for the evening, and we were fortunate a couple of weeks back to help kick off Women in Horror Month to have on the legend, the cult legend, Felissa Rose.
You're hilarious and so sweet. Thank you. Thank you for having me back. Woo! Let's have a party.
But of course. Well,
I really appreciate it.
Oh, it's no problem. Like I said, there's so much to go through, with your career, and of course, we can't do the podcast without talking about Sleepaway Camp as well, and we will certainly get to that in a few moments. But you were originally supposed to come on a week or so ago, and you had a special little project that you had to go and do. Would you like to tell everyone about the special little project?
I would love to, but if I told you, I'd have to kill you. I'm sure if you use your imagination, you could figure out I was somewhere off in La La Land taking care of some special business. It was a really exciting evening. I can't say more than that, sadly. And I'm not that person who's like, oh, I can't tell you. But this is really like a super secret situation, and I feel so badly that I cannot reveal, unlike the last shot in Sleepaway Camp, I cannot reveal what I was up to. But I will tell you that you'll love it. So it's all good.
Well, hopefully the two of these are not related, but a lot of people are shooting questions out on Facebook today, and they had wanted to know, because everyone, of course, knows that Scream Factory is going to be putting Sleepaway Camp out on Blu-ray. And you don't have to give any details or anything. Yes, you know that.
Holy shit.
But what people wanted to know was, have you been contacted about doing behind-the-scenes interviews and things like that?
Well, they're definitely releasing the Blu-ray. I'm beyond thrilled that they are finally putting this little ditty on the Blu-ray. But, they're a bit on the secretive side in terms of who's involved, the participation level, who's doing what. And I have to say that it's definitely an action-packed disc. So you guys will hopefully love it. A lot of good stuff happening behind the scenes right now. So with that, I'm very happy that Scream Factory has chosen to put it out. We're thrilled. So we're going to make some announcements soon.
When it comes to Blu-ray releases, I really feel like Scream Factory is really heads and above most of the companies out there these days, and it's really nice to see a film from my childhood that basically was the foundation for what I do today. I mean, there's so much that goes into that film, and I guess this is as good as a time as any to start the Sleepaway Camp stuff and then definitely get into the rest of your career. But, how were you originally approached for the role of Angela? And when you were approached, did you have any idea at that time that the ending of the film was going to be as shocking as it was?
I had no idea. I can't believe we're talking about it today. It's 32 years later. It's like the little film that could. It has legs like no other. It just keeps on going. And it amazes me. I'm more than grateful and thankful for everyone who has supported it. And, at conventions, how many friends I've made, and we've talked about the stories. And, I've worked in this industry, in the horror genre, because of this movie. And it's a low-budget, small little film, but somehow it really resonated with people, and the ending is clearly the reason. My mom decided to get me into the business and got a manager locally back in the early 80s, and I just went on an audition. It was just a regular, go to the it was held, I think the audition was at NYU. Robert Hiltzik, the writer, director, producer of Sleepaway Camp, was attending NYU. And we went into a room, and he and I chatted, and we did some improvisation. He really wanted to see how I could stare. The audition was for a young girl with a flat chest and big eyes. So with that being said, I somehow he and I immediately connected. I will say that. There was an absolute moment where I thought, I think I got this. And then there was a callback, and, the rest is history. But, it was just like one of those things. We hit it off, and I guess it was meant to be. It's really been an incredible journey because of this movie, I have to say.
Now, when the film did you go to the premiere of the film when it was released?
I did, yeah. I mean, Robert and I were actually from the same town, and it was my whole 8th grade class who came to the movie theater, and we all sat there and watched it, and I remember just at the end being, like, paralyzed, like, holy cow, that's what we did, You really don't know. I mean, it was my first film. The way you create a movie is completely out of sequence, so you really aren't understanding the story. I was young. It was just a whole lot of chaos going on at the camp with all these teens running around and partying. So who knew what was going to appear on the screen until that final, that moment. And then when the big reveal happens, it was like, really? And I think that was actually the first penis I had seen. So it was definitely a moment for me.
Well, speaking of that, you had your 8th grade class there. I'm sure your parents were there. What were the reactions of your classmates afterwards? And, if your mom calls back in, of course I'll ask your mom straight out. But, I mean, what was your mom's response to that final scene?
I have to say, like, sadly my dad has since passed on, but my parents were always the coolest. I have, like, the most amazing mother who everyone just adores her and has always befriended her. She's, as you could only imagine, who allows their little 13-year-old to make this kind of a movie? I mean, running around the camp, slashing people, and then has a penis at the end. You just have to figure the personality is pretty zany. So she's really cool and fun, and I think her reaction was just like, wow, we made a movie, and this is it. Cool, let's go have a party. And she had, like, a big party at our house in New York, and it was kind of like just kept on moving with the flow. We didn't skip a beat. It wasn't like, oh no, what will people think? There was never any of that. It was just like really cool, and my family embraced it. And at the time, it wasn't like, wow, this is the biggest thing ever. Not at all. I mean, it actually beat Yentl, funny enough, which is like another he-she film. So it did well at the theaters, but it wasn't like it rocked my world. I mean, I continued with school, and and it wasn't until later that I came back to film and did more horror movies. But yeah, it was just a really fun time, and my parents were great about it.
Well, we brought up the character, and one of the important things if you look at the horror industry as a whole, one of the things that we've always pushed taboos in the genre. You could go back as far as Psycho, Texas Chainsaw Massacre. You want to talk about movies like that where you can argue the elements of sexuality, transgenderism, things like that. But Sleepaway Camp was really one of the first films to, in the beginning where they show the father and his lover, and they hint on that, and then of course the surprise with Angela at the end. Looking back on it now, 32 years later, people still make a big deal about the character being, quote-unquote, a transgendered character. And, some people love it, some people hate it. But, what are your thoughts on playing really playing the first female transgendered horror character? And, do you ever get any responses from that community about the film?
I do. I mean, I've only heard positive. I've been absolutely, taken in by that community. I remember back in the day when we were still writing letters. Listen to me, I'm really dating myself. People would actually talk to me about, she was actually a transvestite. She hadn't yet had surgery. So Angela was a transvestite during the course of Sleepaway Camp, the film. And she, as a 13-year-old, and back in the day, yes, in the early 80s, that was very new, ground that we were walking on. And I think that it was wonderful for that community and it coming to light, although she was killing people, people, for some reason, always sided with Angela because, we hadn't really talked about bullying the way we do today. I mean, this child was really bullied by these assholes at camp. They were mean, and I think it was a revenge story. It's like, get those kids, and so it was very multi-layered in who Angela was and what she was doing. So she was not only, dealing with her sexuality because she's on the beach with Paul and she's trying to figure out, should I kiss him? And that whole kind of flashback scene with the dad in the bed and the two kids sitting there, she's trying to figure out her own sexuality. So she's dealing with kids picking on her. She's dealing with who am I, my identity. And I think a lot of young, prepubescent, and pubescent young people today are all confused and trying to figure it out. So in this crazy, film lies a sort of, person who they can identify with, let's say, and a sweet person at that. She wasn't doing anything wrong. Yes, she was killing people ultimately, but there was a sweet nature, I believe, because I know when I talk to people, they identify like I was bullied or I'm gay and it was really hard, and so with all of that, for the little movie again, and I always say this, like this cheesy 80s film, and there are a lot of naysayers, and I don't care because I stay away from any kind of, drama and negative BS. But with the people who've I've been fortunate enough to talk to and as I said, have become friends with at conventions and whatnot, and I've met on Facebook and all of the social media, oh my gosh, I mean, it's just... It's incredible what it's done, what Sleepaway Camp has really, like, how it's spoken to a lot of now generations of people. So it's freaking cool. And when I hear people's, first time in the theater, I mean, directors hire me and they're like, oh my God, you got to hear this. I was with my girlfriend and it's just a trip for me,
Well, I was fortunate early last year, and I got to do a interview with your co-star in the film, Jonathan Tiersten. And he's spoken about
that little
how
shit. Okay.
He talked about how, a little bit how he was surprised that that the film still carries the weight that it does. But one of the things that comes across really well in that film is you two come across as almost like family in that film. How did you guys develop that bond while on set? To pass as family members, just in terms of the camaraderie, how he comes to your defense several times during the film and things like that.
It's funny because since I've been fortunate enough to make a bunch of movies since that film, I've realized and I've seen a lot of times what's happening offset, like when we're just fooling around and hanging out, transpires onto the big screen, okay, if you will. In other words, if you're having a good time and there's synergy and there's great relationships made and you do feel like family, it translates really well. And the film it kind of captures that energy amongst the whole cast, both on set and off set. And I think with Jonathan, as I said with Robert, we just connected. It was like, meeting an old friend after a long time. Somehow that whole cast, Judy, played by Karen Fields, and Kathy Kami, who played Meg, and Chris Collette, who played Paul, the whole group of us were really, really good friends. Like, we really genuinely liked one another. And Jonathan and I, especially, from the second we met, it was like, wow, I think you're awesome, and I want to get to know you better. And from that, being played in real life, I think, definitely had an impact in how we portrayed our characters. And we really liked each other. I mean, yes, there was, and it's been out there a million times, I know, there was like that little dating time between us. But, I was 13, he was 17, 8th grade, and a senior in high school, just not good. But we did have a certain passion between us, and I think it really it played out well for Ricky and Angela.
It does. It really does come across well on the screen, and I feel like that's an element that a lot of times we don't get in films today. There's just something. I mean, and how would you compare that? the experience and the camaraderie on Sleepaway Camp to, say, more modern films that you've worked on?
I mean, sometimes it's just real, like quick. I've done some cameos. I'm only there for a few days, and so you're kind of thrown in, in the middle of shooting, and that always makes for kind of like you never really get into that groove. Whereas I think all the characters in camp, we were there pretty much the whole time together. But a lot of the films I've done recently, I've been lucky enough to make some like incredible friends and have the same kind of camaraderie and good friendships. Satan's Playground was a great one. I got the chance to work with Ellen Sandweiss, who I just completely admired and adored, and Ed Neal, who I'm like a huge fan of. Sometimes I pinch myself that I'm friends with him, the original, the hitchhiker from Texas Chainsaw.
Sure.
And then, I've recently done, I have a movie coming out called Camp Dread, and I had the chance to hang out with, although we didn't work together, Danielle Harris, and I've been such a fan of hers that hanging out with her was just like kind of had me spinning. I mean, which I'm sure anybody listening could feel that. It was a great moment to just like be in her presence, because she's a serious icon. And Eric Roberts has become a friend of mine. So it's like you do these movies and you kind of want to take them and work on a lot of things with them. We've since worked on a couple of other things. So, you just try to make it, each time you want to capture that lightning in a bottle, I would have to say.
Sure. Now, one of the other characters that a lot of people bring up in conversation is Aunt Martha, who was played by Desiree Gould.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about Desiree and her performance on the screen? When you first look at it, you almost think, oh, it's hammy, but then when you really look at it, the way that the script was written, was she a mentally disturbed person as well? A lot of people even make the comment that they thought at first that she was a man as well.
I have to say that's an excellent question. A lot of people have not asked me that question, like going back to the original script, because in asking that, it is true. We have certain things on the pages that, you're not really quite sure how is that now, actually on the screen. But I would say with Aunt Martha, first of all, Desiree Gould is just a lovely woman. She is so gracious and bubbly and happy. She is a complete woman. She took, Jonathan and I under her wing. That was the first scene that we shot, was in the house where it says 8 years later. So, we were all a little nervous and wanted to please Robert. So we kind of all hooked on to each other, and she's just a very dynamic personality. And I think between she and Robert, they just decided that Aunt Martha, for what will happen in the film at the very end, she had to be loony. Would you believe that this sort of thing could happen if it was just your typical, Jane Doe who was like, okay, kids, how are you? There needed to be that element of kookiness. And I think that she really got it. And it just speaks to her acting ability. And people always questioning, is she a man or not? And that's just because she was dressed in a little bit of a strange wardrobe and because of Angela's, being a guy. But no, she's just terrific, and I think she portrayed that character really well.
Yeah, that won't do. That won't do at all.
I always say if there's a remake,
that in the film.
It echoes in my head. If there's a remake, I really want to play that character, Richard, Angela. I mean, it's just wacky.
See, now that
stuff.
would be an interesting twist. All these years later, if they remade it and you played that role, I think that would actually be pretty amazing. But since you've said that, of course, there have been several sequels to the Sleepaway Camp franchise. Some that you were involved with, some that you weren't. Are you happy that they went with sequels, or would you be open to a remake of the film?
I love that they made sequels, and I think it all happened the way it, was meant to be, with Pamela Springsteen playing Angela. I think the way that character was drawn out, she did a marvelous job of portraying her in that kind of kinetic way. And she and Michael Simpson had a relationship, so under his direction, I think they just did, a terrific job with 2 and 3. And then in coming back to return to Sleepaway Camp, it was really a lot of fun going back and working with Robert. I mean, just having that second chance of going back to camp with Jonathan and Robert and Paul was like, you couldn't ask for more. It's like, what, I can do it again? And this time I can drink? Well, holy shit, this is the best. Is this a dream? So I'm thrilled that we got to make Return to Sleepaway Camp. I know that it's gotten a lot of, kind of thumbs down from a lot of people, but that's cool too. It's a movie and it's out in the open for people to critique. A different character in the lead, Alan. Some people loved him, some people hated him. But I think it was good, to have all of these sequels, and now I'm totally, feeling like a remake is in order. I mean, it's kind of like the last one in that generation of films that hasn't been out there, hasn't been remade.
Do you kind of take that as a badge of honor, though? And the reason I say that is Hollywood has definitely been on this whole remake craze, and we can say for the last 15 years, I love the originals. There's something, it just bridged from, it made me what I am today, journalist, effects artist, it's movies like that really drew me in. And a lot of the remakes these days, they get crapped on. It seems like a lot of them are sped through. So, do you take that as a badge of honor that no one has touched it? Are they, and the question is, we'll go back to the ending of the film. Are people afraid to take that step nowadays because society's become so PC?
I think we've definitely become PC, and people are probably a little bit afraid to touch it, especially the suits in Hollywood, the way they, churn things out these days, kind of glossy. And for a long time I felt like, wow, I'm kind of bummed that they're not redoing this film, remaking this movie. But I don't know, I kind of see what you're saying. Like, it's kind of cool that the original speaks for itself and is there, for the long haul as the one and only. And I always kind of vacillated with these remakes, like, do I love them? Do I hate them? Am I happy and then I love some of them, like Last House on the Left, and, there are just My Bloody Valentine. They're just some of them are really good. Mm-hmm. But I don't know. I would like to see Sleepaway Camp. Maybe it's just that I have kids now, and it would be kind of cool to see what they could do with it or what they would do with it, because it is so crazy with the end, how do they, so I don't know. It's sort of up in the air. We'll see. I know there's a lot of talk about it. Again, another secret that I hate. But we'll see what the future holds for Sleepaway Camp. I think it's just, it's just beginning. Let's put it that way. I think there's a lot more life in this piece than we've seen.
Now, the murder sequences in the film are definitely some of the more innovative ones from that time frame. We have death by stinging. We have the cook that gets scalded alive. We have the infamous curling iron. Out of all the murder sequences on the set, which one fascinated you the most? And were you shocked to see how the effects work was pulled off?
I was definitely, excited to see how they would, do like the bow and arrow and Artie, the chef. We fortunately had the amazing Ed French, who's gone on to, I think he was nominated for an Academy Award, a really dynamite special effects person. I wasn't around for many, I will say that, because of my age, but I did, the one opportunity I had that was really cool, they made this sort of floor that Artie had to lay on for when he was being burned, and they had like this whole prosthetic machine, crazy stuff being hooked up to him so that his face could bubble the way it did. And I remember sitting there. I was like sitting on that makeshift floor and watching this happen. And I just thought, here it is. It's really, when you break it down, a man who's doing special effects, and you're watching this cool makeup, happen in this sort of gruesome way. But I loved it. I thought it was really, really amazing. So I should have known that my future was, I was just destined to work in the horror industry because I was so taken by it. But that was a great death scene. I loved it. And he's such a good actor, Owen Hughes. I mean, nothing like that character. That character is despicable. I mean, that first line, like, look at all of them, It's like,
right.
Dude, how did you get a job? Where are you from? And he was nothing like that. He was a real intellect who would, like, sit in the rec hall, like, corner with a book. I mean, that's my, recollection. He was just kind of like this sweet, quiet man, and brought this incredible, life to Artie, the pedophile.
Now, of course, the writer and director is Robert
Hiltzik, yeah.
Tell us a little bit about working with Robert, and, for some of the more gruesome aspects of the film, did he shield you guys from that stuff, or, was he, very hands-on with, hey, guys, come watch this be done?
Well, it's a SAG movie, which is a union for actors, and so there are very, very, specific rules, especially with minors. My mom was there. I had an on-set teacher. Michelle Totosian, who's the producer of the film, and at the time was Robert's girlfriend, who's now become his wife, they were all very protective of the young people on the set. So, he was so incredibly, I can't explain. He's a very quiet man, and he would kind of hang his head low and really get into, like, the moment of what we were shooting and how it was being shot and the angles and the art of it. He was very serious man, very, very serious man, very smart man. And when I was there with him at certain moments, he was very much like, come, like, into my world and, like, see what we're creating. But it wasn't too often that, we were dealing with the gory, bloody, not that there was that much blood, but, like, the neg scene. I was nowhere to be found. Shots like that, he really didn't want the kids around. And he was he's also very secretive, which most people know. If you're a Sleepaway Camp, person, you know that on any commentary or interview, he's very private about how things were done.
Now, in terms of, the horror genre and looking back at this film, where do you feel Sleepaway Camp falls in horror's history? How much of a landmark and pinnacle film do you really feel this is? 32 years later, here we are talking about it.
That's such a hard question because it depends who you speak to. My husband is like the number one Sleepaway Camp fan. The guy tracked me down. It doesn't get bigger than that, He named his band and went on a show and wore my face on his T-shirt. It's like he used to look for me in the phone book when he was 12. Like, I'm going to marry Felicia Rose. So, in his world, it's tremendous. But in horror history, I think that the ending definitely has a place because it was shocking and because you're dealing with so many, homoerotic undertones and a young girl, 13, killing other kids. I think there are elements in Sleepaway Camp that are truly kind of one of a kind and interesting. But I don't know, as a whole, movie, it's you take it for what it is. The baseball game, people cry was a little too long, and but everybody has something to say about it, whether they love it or hate it. The short shorts, the guy, no female nudity. The guys went skinny dipping. You never saw a boob. I mean, there's parts of Sleepaway Camp that are definitely interesting when you dissect it, and people have been doing it for a long time. And that's what's so cool about it. Everybody sees something different when they watch Sleepaway Camp.
And the last question on Sleepaway Camp will be this. How much do you feel the film has impacted the industry even to this day? Because, I'll always say that, big fan of Friday the 13th, Halloween, Texas Chainsaw, all of that stuff. But in my opinion, in American cinema, things really didn't get shocking until that film, until that scene at the end. How many young filmmakers and actors and actresses do you still hear from today that tell you, this movie was such an inspiration, this guided me on my path?
Wow, I love you. You're so awesome. Your support is tremendous. Thank you.
No problem.
I am fortunate to hear and to again have worked with some amazing filmmakers because of the love they've had for Sleepaway Camp through the years. I do think, people say, hey, the Crying Game would never have happened if it weren't for Sleepaway Camp, I think it has its place. That ending is definitely, a shocking, if nothing else, it shocked the shit out of people. And, I have a very dear friend who's flying in tonight, and he stays with me. He's a filmmaker. We met 2 years ago. We did this movie Camp Dread together. We just did this movie called Zombie Killers together. And it's all because when he was 15, he was in a movie theater with his girlfriend, and the movie ended, and he went, holy shit, I love this movie, and I'm going to work with that girl. And his girlfriend said, then I think we need to break up. So, everybody's got, and that's a perfect analogy to what you're saying. It's like that, that speaks to what Sleepaway Camp is. You love it or you hate it, and there are people who just, it drove them to make horror movies and create these kinds of interesting and bizarre horror movies.
Now, 1983 was Sleepaway Camp. And then there's a 10-year hiatus on, now I'm going by internet, IMDb, and we know how reliable they can be sometimes. But, looking at your credits, there's a 10-year gap. Did you intend to stay out of film? And in 93, when you did The Night We Never Met, what got you back into the industry at that point?
Well, it's sort of like, the industry is such a funny place. It sort of decides for you. We want you, we don't want you. And I'm just, the way I live my life today and always have, even back then, even when I was a kid, is sort of like, if it's meant to be, it will be. I don't take anything too seriously. I try not to get myself, in that place of, will I, work again? Will I? That stuff just, it's silly. You can't stress yourself out. I'm a pretty easygoing, even-keeled person, and I really chose education. As soon as I graduated high school, I decided to go to NYU. I studied at Tisch School of the Arts in Strasbourg for 4 years very seriously, and I was doing theater in New York for a long time. So it was kind of like I was having a ball, working the theater circuit, and then somebody kind of found me and said, hey, do you want to do this little film called Birds of a Feather? And I said, sure, that sounds cool, and it was a great little script, and I got to play a crazy villain again, and I loved it. And that brought back a little bit of the itch for me to do film. And then people started calling again. It was like the internet, really kind of showed me that there was a love for Sleepaway Camp, and this resurgence happened with all of these websites. Jeff Hayes had gotten in touch with me. He created SleepawayCampMovies.com, and he was telling me how many people loved it. And so of course, always because of Sleepaway Camp, people started calling me, hey, would you do this part? Would you do this? And Dante Tomaselli is a New York filmmaker, New Jersey filmmaker, and he called me to do his film Horror. And it was sort of like from there I started pedaling my way back into, you know, the genre and with a really warm welcome. So it wasn't necessarily like leaving, not leaving. It was just like, this is how it's going to be. This is your fate. Go for it and do it. And, you know, again, I never took it so seriously. It is what it is. I'm thrilled that I got the opportunity to play Angela in Sleepaway Camp. And it's I've been lucky because it's afforded me the opportunity to be in the genre.
Definitely. Now, in 2003, you worked on it's one of these films that just, like, it stuck with me, and I had no idea you were in it until I watched it. And I'm talking about the film that you co-starred in with Joe Zazo, and it was directed by Andreas Schnaas. You already know where I'm going. Tell us, how in the world did you get involved with Nikos the Impaler? And I don't mean that in a hateful way, because that's just, again, that's one of those movies I was like, get the hell out of here.
Oh, my gosh, I love that. Was such a great time. That was great. A really cool horror actor named Joe Zazo, really buff, handsome New York guy. I don't know how it happened, but some way he and I, maybe through Dante, I don't know, we were in touch with one another, and he said, hey, listen, I'm, like, co-producing this movie. It's with this great German filmmaker, Andreas Schnaas. He'd love to meet you. Why don't you take a look at our script, and if the role of Sandra speaks to you, I think could be really cool. We're going to film right here in New York, and, it'll be a great time. And I thought, okay, hey, that's great. And I read the script, and, it was very interesting and gory. I think we had, like, the most kills at that time in in the lowest budget horror movie ever made. And I met Andreas, right? I mean, everywhere you turn, it was like, whoo, he's killed, she's killed, that's happening. But he was such an interesting man. I just really did it because I loved Joe when I met Joe, and I loved Andreas. I mean, he's really, like, talk about a wild card and a crazy character. I mean, the man who made the Violent Shit series, you would never believe, and I feel badly saying this, just like the super sweetest dude ever. He was really, really fun. So,
man, yeah, like I said, I've had hours of entertainment watching that film. So,
I think I watched it once, and I was like, "Wow, that's what we did." But it was, again, that was another film. Although, it didn't really do much in the way of find an audience. But the cast was really great. The girl Brenda Abendondolo, who played like the kind of nerdy character, and of course we're going like 10, 11 years back. The cast was great. There was a really, really nice group of people, and it was fun. It was one of those moments where you're just like, this is how they should all be. It's just a party time.
2003 had another film on your resume that I definitely saw, took notice of. It seems like these days you're not really a part of the horror industry unless you've done a film that Troma has released. And in 2003, you were in Chris Watson's Zombiegeddon, and I mean you're in there alongside Brink Stevens, Tom Savini, Robert Zadar, Joe Estevez, Edwin Neal. Kind of tell us about your experiences on being with that. What's it like, being attached to a Troma film and the madness that goes along with that?
Well, that's so funny because I've met Lloyd a few times, and he's just like, as wild and crazy as you could imagine. He's just, an out there, brilliant man. And like you said, when you're in the horror industry, when you're working in the genre, you're not really in the genre unless you work with like Tiffany Shepis, Debbie Rochon, Brink Stevens. So I think at that point I really did, like, even with my easygoing way, wanted to immerse myself deeply into, making movies with all of these people I've admired and I knew really kind of ranked above. I mean, that there's just, the horror genre is small, so there's just a group that you kind of want to get in with. And I made it a point to somehow, again, and I can't recall, I was in touch with Chris Watson, and he is like this very sweet, quiet guy who's in, Kansas City, and said, if I flew you out here and you worked with Ed Neal and, what do you think? And again, it was one of those things where it's like, who's in the cast? Oh my God, my jaw's on the ground, of course. And I just went out there and realized, okay, so this is it. This is what making a real crazy, low budget, film with all of these incredible actors is all about. And that was terrific. I didn't get to work with everyone on that film, but clearly they're all in it. And then when Troma released it, it was like, I've arrived. Troma put it out.
Now, another one that's on your resume, and I can't wait to hear your response to this. With character names like Harold the Baby Boomer Asshole and Carolyn the MILF, tell us a little bit about a cerebral print Halloween special from 2004.
Well, it's funny because through Chris Watson, I was fortunate enough to make a movie that I actually loved making, but it's just, kind of, I don't even think it's very watchable, and that's not because of anyone, in particular, no one's fault, just the way the cards went with it was Slaughter Party, that also Troma put out with Chris Watson. Right. And I met a dynamite actor named Ford Austin. And Ford is this very, educated, handsome actor. And we became great friends on Slaughter Party because, when you're running in a bikini from a midget, you need to find a safe haven. So Ford Austin was that for me. He was the male lead and I was the female lead, and we just hung out all the time. And he said, look, I'm going to do this other, these cerebral print films. And I said, sign me up, because when you meet, my thing is I want to have a good time. Yes, it is definitely work, but I want to meet really cool people. That's my thing in life. It's all about, having fun and enjoying being on the set with cool people. So that was just one of those things. And funny enough, I got to work with Ford's friend Jed Rowan, and Jed and I had a great friendship. And just recently, Jonathan Tiersten was in town, and he had become good friends with Jed, and we all had lunch together. And it's, again, the genre is so tiny, and everyone knows everyone, and I just want to make great relationships. So that was a fun time.
Oh, definitely. Now, one of the other interesting thing was, and I see it was produced by Fangoria Entertainment, and I've never seen it anywhere, but tell us a little bit about how you became involved in 2005 for New York's Village Halloween Parade.
Yeah, that was I was working for Fangoria for a little while as kind of like a consultant, and we were filming. It was sort of at the time when they were talking about it becoming a network, and they sort of put me in charge of roaming around the country, filming certain things. Like, we went to the original place where they filmed Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and we were actually at the house on the grounds, and we did a piece there. And then they would send a couple of people to New York, for instance, for the Halloween parade. And I was blown away because they had this trailer right by where the parade was. Now, there's millions of people. I mean, that's just not an exaggeration. It's just crazy. Sure. And as you can tell, I'm not a wallflower, I'm just like, whoa, my adrenaline is pumped right now. And I walk into the trailer, and it's myself and Debbie Rochon and Rain Brand, and we're going to be the hosts. And there's Dee Snider. And I just tripped over myself. I'm like, oh my God, it's Dee Snider. And, I got to sit there with him and chat with him. And he's so, like, you know, he's an icon, and I've been such a fan. So that was a treat just to be, you know, part of that whole crazy hosting segment, you know, for the Halloween parade in New York City, like in the middle of the street, just screaming, "I'm here with you know." So Fangoria is, you know, I'll always love Fangoria, and I was lucky to do that.
Now, you had already mentioned Dante Tomaselli, you know, Ellen Sanwies, and Edwin Neal. Your film in 2006, Satan's Playground, you guys all got together and worked on that. And you've lived in the New York area. How did you enjoy taking on another northern legend such as the New Jersey Devil?
Yeah, oh, well, first of all, we froze our asses off. I mean, it was like December and January, and we're, you know, so our clothes are getting kind of ripped off, and we're running around, and it's, I don't even know, it's the same kind of winter they're having now. It's just, you know, unbelievably freezing. So we just drank our asses off and smoked cigarettes till we were half dead. But I loved, you know, and my character just has to run for her life, like the entire movie. I'm just like, ah! So I felt like with that movie, I was really back in the game in terms of, like, taking on a role and really acting. I love the way Dante visualizes his script and creates his moments. His films are beautiful. The acting was terrific. I clearly got to work with, you know, some great people, Ellen and Ed. So that was, you know, one of my most favorite movies to make, I'd have to say, by far, because it was just top-notch cast and crew, and I loved my character, Donna. She was just a little bit of like this bitchy, you know, New Jersey girl. I wanted to wear my hair all curly and kind of talk with my accent that I think I'm always hiding, but I can't fool anyone. So, you know, it was just one of those moments where you're like, wow, you know, this is really nice that they've invited me to be a part of it. I'm always like, can't believe I'm there. So that was 2 months of running from the Jersey Devil in the cold, and it was my favorite. It was my favorite time on set.
Yeah, did you enjoy tackling a regional urban legend like that? I mean, how much? Did you find the story of the Jersey Devil interesting?
I thought it was amazing. I had done so much research on it, and it was scary as shit. And I mean, that's where you're really like drawing all of your kind of tension and you know, feeling. I was exhausted too because it was. You know, it was hard to kind of bring all of that. You don't realize when you're watching a movie, it's so easy to judge, like, oh, look at her, she can't really cry. You know, you're working your ass off, and in horror, the moments, you're never in life in that kind of panicked emergency state, you know? So you have to,
right.
In a horror movie, I think of all genres, is the hardest because you're brought to a place that you don't usually typically go in your day. You know, I'm not running from the Jersey Devil in my real life, so I have to like create that. And yes, I thought it was really cool to be like this East Coast girl, and that was such a, you know, fascinating legend that I'm like, wow, this is kind of the coolest thing I'll ever do. You know, I really wanted that movie to kind of blow up, but you know, again, with trends and with people's, you know, people loved it, people hated it, but it was my favorite movie, and I love Anchor Bay for picking it up and putting it out there. I just adore Anchor Bay. They had Sleepaway Camp for a long time, and then they picked up Satan's Playground. So anybody out there, if you can get your hands on it, it's just such a fun little fierce movie. Did you like it?
I still have my copy of it. I have my copy of it still. I got it when Anchor Bay first put it out.
I'm going to make out with it when I see you, so hold on to it. I love that freaking movie, man. It just had such a ball. Best crew.
2008 saw you return to the role of Angela in Return to Sleepaway Camp. You also played the role of Sheriff Jerry in that film. After all of the time that had passed, you know, at that current point in time, did you have any trepidation in going back to play Angela, and how much different was the experience all these years later?
oh my God, I couldn't wait to get there. Like they couldn't get me to the camp quick. I was like, oh my God, we're doing it when? Like today? It was something that I had just been dying to do. And it's funny because my mom read the script and she was like, are you really going to enjoy playing Angela in this form? Like, it's 10 years ago, and everybody wants to be like the hot little piece of ass on set, in the sexy camp wear. And I was like, oh, no, I'm dying to do something completely, off the charts and weird and out there. So playing Sheriff Jerry was like a complete gift, and going back to camp was exactly the way I remembered it from the original, film, where you just like, this time, instead of living in a little motel with my mom, I actually lived in the cabins with Jonathan Tiersten. So it was like, just the way we were just as best friends. It was so, surreal. You do something as a kid, and if anyone tells you, okay, you can repeat the whole experience all over again, but this time you'll have it your way, that's the only way I can describe it. It's like hard to really articulate those feelings of like, I wanted to go back to camp. I wanted to play drinking games. I wanted to be involved in the parties and be crazy. Still to this day, I'm friends with a lot of the cast and crew, and it's like the tagline we all have. I was always on set going, party in my cabin. It was like I couldn't wait to just relive those memories.
Now, you kind of.
I throw a hell of a party. In fact, I think people just invite me on set now because they want me to throw a party. I'm pretty good that way.
We're gonna have to work together one day. Then we'll have to find a way to get this going.
Even Zombie Killers, the movie I just did. Like we play Four Corners, we play Truth or Dare. It's like I completely create an environment that we're all teenagers again.
Now, you kind of stayed in the summer camp mode. Two movies, different time periods, but I wanted to ask you about 2009 saw you in Caesar and Otto's Summer Camp Massacre. And then I believe, I'm waiting for it to pull up, Caesar and Otto's Deadly Christmas, or Xmas as it's written. Kind of tell us about how you got involved with those films, and it definitely looks like there's high comedy. Now, I can honestly say I have not seen those yet. But,
oh my God,
can you tell us about
they're
those?
So funny. They are a complete creation from the crazy mind of my friend Dave Campfield. He and I knew each other a million years ago in New York, and he just is a determined filmmaker who's like, you know what, I'm gonna just make films, even if it means, I can only, the budget is $1. I'll beg, borrow, and steal. And we did a movie together, I want to say like 2000, right after Birds of a Feather, called Dark Chamber. And it was, a really dark kind of intellectual thriller. And then he called me so many years later and said, look, I have this idea. I kind of want to do a little bit of like a take on Angela and a spoof at camp. Oh, boy, and did he nail it. That is one movie that I have to say, I don't think I've ever heard anything negative. It's really freaking funny. It is so funny.
Everything that I've seen about it looks like it's a very funny movie, both of them.
It is. It's really well done. And again, low budget, not taking itself seriously, self-deprecating in every way, every turn, and just a solid cast because he's a stickler. He's the type like, I may have a nickel and I'm not paying you, but I'm only going to hire like the best people. And he got like Brink Stevens and Joe Estevez and Debbie Rochon and Linnea Quigley and my husband. He's just one of those magnetic people who everyone's drawn to and want to work with because he's really smart and he knows what he can do within his parameters of no money and certain locations. He even got me to give my house up to film in with my cats and my dogs and my kids and my, it's like, holy shit. So, we did both of those movies. My husband is the leading guy in Caesar and Otto's Deadly Christmas, and he just couldn't be happier because he got to recreate an iconic moment with Linnea Quigley. Who wouldn't want to do that, right? The antler scene.
Sure.
So, those movies are really hysterical, and I just love that guy. Dave Canfield is he'll just keep making movies. Again, whether it's a dime or 10 million, he's going to do it.
Now, another film, and just from the title, I have to ask it. This is another one I have not been able to get my hands on. 2010. A lot of the big thing in horror is, we want to see Dracula versus Frankenstein. We want Freddy versus Jason. You were involved with Dahmer versus Gacy. Kind of tell us about Dahmer versus Gacy and how that whole crazy thing started.
I will preface this by saying, I don't mean to constantly be like, I love everyone I love, but I really do. Like, I've been lucky enough to work with great people, and the truth of the matter is I just keep working with the same people. It's like I've done all these movies with Dave Canfield or Chris Watson or Dante Tomaselli. This is Ford Austin again, from the crazy mind of Ford Austin. And he's like, I have this idea for a movie. Are you in? And it's like, yeah, sign me up. And when you hear the title, Dahmer versus Gacy, you're definitely like, you're more than in. This is going to be crazy. It's one of those movies where I just had a quick cameo. I play Joni Farina, like some newscaster, but he made a hell of a movie with a great hook, an interesting group of ensemble actors who were terrific, and my husband plays Charles Manson. So it's a great film, but again I was on set for like one day, so I had a good time, and it's definitely classic, very Ford Austin.
Oh, very. I mean, it definitely looks like it has entertainment value.
Oh my God, the title, you have to watch
killers.
it. Yeah, it's like it's Dahmer versus Gacy. I'm in. It doesn't matter.
All you can eat, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
Put that however you want. But
woo!
I know, right? I had to.
I love it.
Another one that just from the title, I've got to ask. And sorry again, this is one that I have not seen.
No.
But Aliens versus.
I think
A-holes.
we're going to be besties, and I'm going to just lend you all my copies. I see
I'll
that in our future. We're definitely BFFs. We're like,
Okay.
Paris Hilton and Nicole Richie, in the of the horror genre.
Hey, that absolutely works for me. But yeah, tell us a little about Aliens versus A-holes. That definitely looks like it has some humor to it as well.
That's something that Ford Austin is creating, but I don't know anything about it. It's on my IMDb.
Really?
It's a title that everyone asks me. I mean, at least like once a week someone's like, hey, what about Aliens versus Assholes? But we haven't done anything with it, so who knows?
That's one I'm going to have to definitely watch out for.
Yeah, we'll have to see.
A movie... one that you've mentioned several times. Give us some more details on Camp Dread.
Camp Dread comes out April 15th by Image Entertainment. It's a film that I just got this random call from a guy named Harrison Smith, and he's like, I just made a movie called 6 Degrees to Hell, and I want to make another movie, a camp slasher. I got your number from this writer at Fangoria. I wrote it for you, and I'm like, what? And it's this great character named Rachel Steele. Yeah, like, huh? And it's a movie where it's about this crazy director named Julian Barrett, played by Eric Roberts. And see if you this echoes anything that I've done. And basically, they want to remake a franchise horror movie that they had done in the 80s called Summer Camp. And so he brings back the two leads, Rachel and John, and they kind of go, to camp with him, only he can't raise the funds, so he decides to kind of do this weird reality show thing, and involves all of these terrible early 20s, fuck-ups, and just, like, relentless. I mean, a great script, and, like, the dream cast of Danielle Harris and Eric Roberts. I mean, I seriously buckled. Like, when I got off the plane, I'm in the bar with Danielle Harris all night to only roll out of bed and go into rehearsal with Eric Roberts. Hello? You're paying me for this? I was like... This is serious dream stuff. Yeah, so that film I'm very proud of. I think it's an amazing slasher. I think it's the slasher all grown up. Let's put it that way.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
With
we're
a
going to
twist
see another
ending.
We're going to see another one of your films coming up, and you had mentioned this one briefly earlier. You co-star alongside Misha Barton, Billy Zane, and Dee Wallace in Zombie Killers: Elephant's Graveyard. Now, that's certainly a unique title for a movie. Is there anything you can tell us about it without you getting in trouble?
Again, it's from the, it's a brainchild of Harrison Smith, who did Camp Dread. It's a terrific, epic film that definitely should have a theatrical release. I mean, it's filmed beautifully. It's interwoven stories about these people who are living within the confines of this town that's just dreadful and fenced in because of the doom that lurks behind the fences that they've had to create, where basically the dead live. And it's tragic and it's gorgeous, and the cast is outrageously amazing. I had the opportunity to work with Misha Barton, and I now have a friendship with Dee Wallace, and I hung out with Billy Zane, and these are folks that when I was showing my penis in Sleepaway Camp, I never really thought I'd have the future ahead of me to do that. So it's pretty freaking cool.
Another one that catches my eye in the coming year is a film entitled Crazy Fat Ethel. What can you tell us about Crazy Fat Ethel? I'm looking at it, and I'm trying to remember the name of the movie, but, the poster, you have the silhouette of the woman with the meat cleaver above her head, and I want to say the movie was absurd, but looking at the poster, that's what it reminds me of. But what can you tell us about this one?
Yeah, it's funny because it's a friend of mine. He's actually trying to raise the funding for that right now. The poster sort of gives away the whole thing, but they're kind of in the early stages of developing it, and it is a take on the old movie. It's slipping my brain right now, and I'm kind of like, with that nurse.
I can see the character's face and everything.
That's exactly it. You got it. So as soon as I know more, I will absolutely. I'm all about Facebook and Twitter, and I just want to say one last thing that I'm really excited about. It's not on IMDb. I just produced my first movie called No Solicitors, and I'm really proud. I had an amazing cast and a director named John Callis who wrote it as well, and he's my partner, and it's coming out soon. So that's freaking amazing.
Well, the last film I wanted to ask you about, in my indie spotlight before you came on, I had Mo Whelan on and Miss Misery, Reggie Young.
Yeah, Miss Misery, baby, yeah.
And we were talking about No Service. Tell us a little bit about how you became involved with, this project and how you know Miss Misery.
Well, she's my girl. I mean, whenever there's just, when it's the horror genre, how many females do you think you're hanging out with? It's like you track each other down. So we met years ago at a convention and became fast friends. And then she actually helped me on the project that I was just speaking of, No Solicitors. And she's like, girl, I'm making this movie and I really want you in it. And I was like, of course, absolutely. I definitely want to be involved, especially a film that is, kind of spearheaded by two incredibly strong and talented women. Whenever there's that kind of is the face of the movie, I want to be involved. So I just got the script recently, and I'm about to read it in the next couple of days. I'm really honored that you asked me to be in it because, you hope that the work keeps coming and that things keep kind of moving, and again, to work with great people is what it's all about.
Now, with such an impressive resume and everything that you've done so far, you've definitely played an icon in the genre. You've returned to the icon, 20-plus years later. Is there a dream horror project out there that you want to direct or act in? And And do you feel like the horror industry is just as strong today as it was in the early 80s?
Oh, definitely. I think the horror genre has, it's above and beyond what I think it's doing incredibly well. I'm really proud of it because aside from it being well received, in the mainstream, and what I'm involved in is the real independent and the low budgets, and I think that we're fortunate. There's always an audience, and people are really interested in what's going on. So it's taken a great turn in the world of horror movies. And I would say, I want to play another crazy villain. I want to play another kind of twisted character that people could probably empathize with and feel something for. I think Angela had some kind of humanity maybe in that kind of evilness, and I'd like to play that again.
Right. I mean, well, she, like you said, she was basically bullied, and you kind of, you set the prototype 30 years ago. It's funny, you look at all the tragedies that happen because of bullying these days, and here you are back in, 83, and, your character, I'm not saying that you led the revolution that people that are picked on go out and mass murder, but, I mean, again, if you stop and think about it, though, think about it from that perspective. You have the anti-bullying thing that fits in very well with Sleepaway Camp. If Angela had never been bullied, would she have become a killer?
That's
so
true.
I think it's an interesting aspect to look at it from there as well. I mean, that film holds certain cultural references that can never be taken away. But it's so. What else do we have coming up that we haven't covered? Are there some projects in the future that you want to kind of hit people to? What can we look forward to from you here in the next couple of years?
Well, I would say, again, within these walls that we spoke about a couple of weeks ago with the amazing Kelsey Zukowski and Marv Blauvelt, Camp Dread coming out in a couple of months, Zombie Killers coming out within this year, No Solicitors coming out in the next year. And I'm also creating and producing some docuseries, kind of like horror reality shows that I'm really kind of feverishly busy at, just because I feel like we have The Walking Dead, we have American Horror Story, we have some incredibly wonderful horror scripted television, and I think it's also cool to see, if we lift the veil, what the reality is in some horror of real life. So I'm kind of bringing that to television right now, and just want to produce movies and work with, like I've said, good, talented, creative people with a passion and a mind for this genre. And I hope that Sleepaway Camp is still moving strongly throughout the years, and people love and support it the way they do. I couldn't ask for more. So I feel very, very, very grateful and lucky, and I thank everybody for always continually being in touch and supporting it. Just thank you, huge thank you.
Well, we know, when Scream Factory drops this, this is going to be one of those movies that sells quickly, and I know you've done a lot of the convention circuits and things like that. How would you say that, at these conventions, how well are you received? Is it like royalty walking in? And I'm being serious, though. Because you guys did the big reunion back in the beginning of, when you did the big reunion back in, what was it, 2000, 2001?
Yeah, 2000.
I was reading stories about how they had to keep people out because so many people showed up.
Yeah, that was a big one. That was tremendous.
What is it like out there, and what's the weirdest thing you've ever been asked to autograph?
Well, I always love when people come up and they're like, "Can you autograph my arm?" And then they come back the next day and it's tattooed. That's amazing to me, to have my name forever on someone's body. That's just
right.
And I have to say, the conventions are my favorite place to be, because I meet the most wonderful and sincere people. As you know, the horror genre generates just incredible and smart, and the most talented people out there because of the passion, and they're driven, and we're all brought together for one reason, and that's the love of horror, of the genre. So it's really cool to be there and make friends. I have a friend, he's a dear friend of mine now. I met him like a million years ago at Horror Find in Maryland. He brought me the automatically correct Angela doll, and then he afterwards made the Sheriff Jerry doll, and just meeting people and hearing their stories, whether it's about what they've gone through personally, the fact that I could connect with them because they saw a movie a million years ago that spoke to them, is like beyond my wildest dreams. It's a really cool thing because, look, you just want to kind of, I don't know, I'm getting all like sappy here, but it's your relationships that matter, for me at least. That's all I care about, is who I'm friends with and involved with and have, things in common with. And certainly the convention circuit is my kind of people.
Well, again, I want to say thank you for, over the years, like I said, that Sleepaway Camp was a movie that definitely set me on the path that I am. And, I don't know if you ever hear it enough. I know at a lot of the conventions and stuff, a lot of times it's just the frenzy of it. But, really a heartfelt thank you for making such a great film that has stuck around for years. And, hopefully one of these days I'll be able to meet you on the convention circuit, or if you ever need an effects artist, you know how to get in contact with me. But
I always do, so I'm glad to know it.
Oh yeah. I've worked on 5 feature films. Nothing huge, but I would always love, if you ever need me, I'm here for you, and Horror Society is here for you. We appreciate you taking the time out of your schedule to come on and talk to the fans and talk to us about everything that you've done in your amazing career. So before we head out...
You are so nice. I just want to thank you so much. Like, seriously, you are so amazing. And, I want to continue our friendship, and I hope we do meet face-to-face. And thank you for having me.
Well, before we
absolutely.
leave, is there anything you want to say to your fans, to people that love your movies? What would you like to say?
It's so funny because the one thing I always say is, like, I hate that word. I hate fan. It just kind of connotates that sort of like, oh, I adore you. And for me, I call everyone like, you're my friend. And I just want to say, I'm really thankful and grateful for people who've supported Sleepaway Camp and the films that I've made. I thank you for loving independent horror movies. It's important. Even with people like Mo and Miss Misery, and they're working their asses off, and Kelsey Zukowski, who's incredible at what she does. Thank you. Thanks for always kind of just checking out the smaller films. That's really important, and I appreciate you having me. I really, really do. This means a lot.
Anytime.
And this has been a blast.
If you ever have any news or info that you want out, you can always shoot it to me, and I will get it up on Horror Society. Thank you for coming
Absolutely.
on so much.
Thank you so much. Have a great night. You're so awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Thank you.
And once again, ladies and gentlemen, that was the icon, the actress, Felissa Rose, probably most famously known for her role as Angela in the original Sleepaway Camp. And of course, if you don't know, Scream Factory is going to be putting the Blu-ray out here in the next couple of months. That'll definitely be worth checking out. If you have a chance, go back and get the Anchor Bay box set. But if you do, make sure to get the one with the red cross on it that had to be pulled from shelves because the Red Cross got mad about copyright infringement. I still have my copy of that, and if I ever do get the chance to meet Felissa, that is what I will have autographed one of these days. But once again, thank you again to Felissa Rose for taking her time to come on and to discuss her extensive career and, what it's like to be an icon in our industry. And we are looking forward to hearing from her again here in the future and checking out her new films, in particular, No Service with Miss Misery, Renya Young, and Mo Whalen. Coming up, we are going to get into our Blu-ray DVD review which is Scream Factory's The Slumber Party Massacre. But before we do that, we are going to play our second song in our Metal Blade Spotlight for the evening. Once again, the name of the band is Destrage. The name of the CD is Are You Kidding Me? No. And the name of the song is Host, Rifles, and Coke. Welcome back to the Calling Hours Horror Podcast on Horror Society Radio. This is your host, the Dead Man, Michael Jones, and we are coming back off of our Metal Blade Spotlight. That was the band Destrage. Are You Kidding Me? No was the album, and the song was Host, Rifles, and Coke. To give you a little bit of background information on Destrage, Are You Kidding Me? No, releasing on March 4th of 2014. They are Milan, Italy natives, and they formed in 2005 and have spent the last 8 years building a reputation as one of the most exciting bands to emerge from Europe in recent years. Their animated live shows have taken them on tour all over Europe and even to Japan. During the summer of 2013, they opened for Every Time I Die and Parkway Drive, and headlined a variety of Italian festivals, including Machete Fest, Rock and Riot, the MAV Festival, and more. In 2012, the band wrote and recorded their third album. It was definitely a focused and dynamic effort, and it led to a worldwide deal with Metal Blade Records. It's definitely an interesting album to listen to it all the way through. It's not quite that death metal, grinding type metal. It's got a little bit more of that power metal sound to it, but it mixes a whole bunch of elements. The album is available worldwide via Metal Blade Records. You can go to metalblade.com and pick it up. You can also go on iTunes and pick it up. It launches March 4th. March 4th. The UK, March 3rd as well, February 28th. Definitely worth checking out. Like I said, not quite the usual standard of metal that I listen to, but Metal Blade has really been impressing me as of late with some of their releases, and has certainly opened my eyes up to other possibilities in the music genre. So once again, make sure to go to metalblade.com to get all of your info on Destrage and to pick up the album. I want to say thank you to my friend Kelly out at Metal Blade for sending that out to us. But we're getting towards the end of the show, so I definitely want to get in our Scream Factory Blu-ray DVD release of the Slumber Party Massacre. It will be available for the first time on Blu-ray March 18th of this year. And from their press release, this March in 2014, loyal fans and horror enthusiasts are invited to join Scream Factory for their ultimate sleepover when Amy Holden Jones's The Slumber Party Massacre, starring Michelle Michaels, Robin Still, Michael Villela, and Andre Onoro, debuts on Blu-ray for the first time. This highly collectible Blu-ray edition features a new high-definition transfer and killer bonus content. A must-have for all slasher fans and movie collectors, this definitive Blu-ray release of the Slumber Party Massacre is priced to own at $24.97. The Slumber Party Massacre helped define the slasher film ethos of the 1980s. Put together by first-time director Amy Holden from a script entitled Don't Open the Door by celebrated author Rita Mae Brown, the film was an immediate hit for Roger Corman's New World Pictures, eventually spawning 2 sequels, and has become a staple in mom-and-pop corner video stores since the 80s. In the synopsis of the film, when Trish decides to invite her high school girls' basketball teammates over for a slumber party, she has no idea the night is going to end with an unexpected guest, an escaped mental patient and his portable power drill, crashing the party in the cult classic, The Slumber Party Massacre. Now, for this release, bonus features include a new HD transfer from the original camera negative. There's an interview with actor Rig Kennedy, which is actually a very great interview with lots of details that go into the behind-the-scenes and everything that was going on during the making of the film. There's also Sleepless Nights, the making of Slumber Party Massacre, where many of the cast and crew talk about their experiences on the set. And again, you definitely learn a lot. There's talk of Corman and everything that went into the film. So if you're looking for something to give you the info that you don't have about the film, this is definitely worth checking out. Audio commentary with director Amy Holden Jones and actors Michael Villela and Deborah DeLiso. And it also has the theatrical trailers for Slumber Party Massacres 1, 2, and 3. So that is definitely worth checking out. It is a high-definition widescreen transfer, 1.78.1, DTS HD Master Audio Mono. It was made in 1982. It's color and a running time of 77 minutes and is rated R. I would certainly recommend picking this up. I had owned the previous releases released on standard definition, and while I thought they looked pretty good on there, there's no denying how great they look on Blu-ray. The murder sequences were definitely everything I remember them to be. It kind of makes the driller killer look like a little bit of a wuss, considering the size of the drill that the killer is running around with in this movie. The makeup effects, again, as I said, I thought were very well done. We get a couple scenes where a drill gets put through a forehead, through a throat, through the chest. The ending sequence is nice. The blood and the gore that goes along with that. I thought the storytelling was right on line with what we used to see in the 80s. It's one of those movies that fits in well. If you're going to watch a double feature, watch it with Sleepaway Camp. Watch it with Friday the 13th, My Bloody Valentine, movies that are in that same time frame and show some interesting aspects to what the industry is. And one of the things I found interesting again is when a lot of the actors talked about working with Corman and their stories that go along with that. You can certainly pick the film up at ScreamFactory.com. I highly recommend going and picking this title up. I would love to see if they're going to release the other two on Blu-ray. And, of course, the question will always be, is this going to be one of those movies that will be remade in the future? So, I don't know, but I do recommend that you go out and pick this up. Definitely 2 thumbs up, and make sure to look for the review coming up on Horror Society this week. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I think it's been an awesome show this evening. I would like to thank our guests that came on once again in the beginning of the show in our Indie Spotlight. We had Mo Whelan and Miss Misery, Renya Young, on to talk about No Service. Our feature interview this evening was with Felissa Rose of Sleepaway Camp. She played Angela. She did a great job in covering the entirety of her film canon, and she answered a lot of great questions. I feel honored to have had her on my show. Like I said, it was one of those films that definitely shaped my view and my love of the industry, and I am very honored that she came onto the show to speak with us. We want to say thank you to our friends at Metal Blade Records. Thank you to Kelly for sending us Destrage to listen to this evening. And we want to thank our friend Tom Chen out at Scream Factory for sending along a review copy of The Slumber Party Massacre. Next week will be a fun show as well. I don't want to tip any hands, but we are going to have a guest that we have had on before to talk about their project. So we are going to end our show with the last song in our Metal Blade Spotlight. This is a re-release. The name of the band is Flotsam and Jetsam, and the name of the song is No Place for Disgrace, the name of the CD is No Place for Disgrace, the remaster of the previous album. So until next week, rest in peace and enjoy Flotsam and Jetsam's I Live, You Die.
forget.